In the golden age of Hollywood, among the sea of loud voices, dramatic performers, and flamboyant stars, there stood one man whose silence echoed louder than all the rest, Gary Cooper. His legacy is not just of cinematic triumphs, but of a man who chose principle over popularity, humility over pride, and quiet courage over flashy fame. This is the long, emotional, and true story of Gary Cooper, the Hollywood icon who never needed to shout to be heard. Frank James Cooper was born on May 7, 1901, in the rustic town of Helena, Montana. His parents, Alice and Charles Cooper, were English immigrants. His father was a Supreme Court judge, a man of integrity, and a strong role model for young Frank. The open plains of Montana carved a deep sense of calm, self-reliance, and stillness into his soul, values that would later define his screen presence. As a boy, Gary loved sketching and riding horses. He would often roam the land, observing people and nature, building the quiet introspection that made his characters so compelling. He was sent to England at a young age for schooling, but found it hard to adapt. Eventually, World War I disrupted their lives, and he returned to Montana, where he studied art at Grinnell College in Iowa. Unlike many who dreamt of stardom, Gary didn't come to Hollywood chasing fame. He started his career as a commercial artist. When that didn't work out, he tried stunt riding in Western films. His natural horsemanship and rugged looks got him noticed. But it wasn't until 1926, when he landed a small role in The Winning of Barbara Worth, that his career began to shift. Producers saw something in him, a rare authenticity. He wasn't acting in the traditional sense, he was the character. With a lanky 6 feet 3 inches frame, piercing eyes, and a voice that carried sincerity, Cooper began rising fast. He transitioned from silent films to talkies with ease, a feat many actors couldn't manage. By the 1930s, Gary Cooper had become one of Paramount Pictures' leading men. He starred in films like A Farewell to Arms, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, and The Lives of a Bengal Lancer. But it was his role in Sergeant York, 1941, portraying a deeply religious World War I hero, that earned him his first Academy Award. Cooper's quiet demeanor and understated emotional range connected with the average American viewer. He was the everyman's hero. Despite his growing fame, Cooper remained grounded. He avoided parties and didn't enjoy the spotlight. His friends were writers and thinkers, Ernest Hemingway being one of his closest. Hemingway once said, "If Gary Cooper couldn't do it, it couldn't be done." That respect wasn't for his acting. It was for his code of conduct, his loyalty, and the unshakable calm he carried. But behind that calm, Gary Cooper was a man wrestling with contradictions. Though he married the elegant Veronica Rocky Balfe in 1933, a debutante-turned-silent film actress, Cooper's charm often led to affairs, most famously with co-stars like Patricia Neal. These infidelities caused deep pain in his marriage and personal guilt in himself. Despite a Catholic upbringing, he struggled with faith and values. His life was a tug-of-war between temptation and morality. But as he aged, and especially after serious illness in the late 1950s, Cooper returned to his faith and worked to rebuild his family. He once wrote to a friend, "In the end, we all seek peace, and I've realized mine was always waiting at home." While many actors supported the war effort from afar, Gary Cooper wanted to enlist in World War II, just like the heroes he portrayed. But at age 41, and suffering from ulcers, he was deemed unfit for combat. Still, he supported the troops by touring military hospitals, rallying morale, and making films that inspired patriotism and justice. His film The Pride of the Yankees, 1942, about Lou Gehrig, solidified his image as a national symbol of quiet strength and American grace. Perhaps no film defines Cooper better than High Noon, 1952. In it, he plays a town marshal left alone to face killers while the townspeople turn their backs. It's a metaphor for standing up for what's right, even when you're alone. The role won him his second Oscar, but more importantly, it became a symbol of courage during an era when Hollywood itself was divided by the fear of McCarthyism and blacklists. Cooper supported blacklisted friends like screenwriter Carl Foreman and spoke softly but boldly against censorship. That quiet rebellion, done with class, won him admiration far beyond the film set. In the late 1950s, Cooper's health declined. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer, which later spread. Despite being gravely ill, he continued to work, appearing in films like The Naked Edge, 1961, knowing his days were numbered. When he could no longer hide the illness, his close friend Jimmy Stewart broke the news of his condition publicly, delivering a moving tribute during the Academy Awards. Gary Cooper passed away on May 13, 1961, just days after turning 60. The nation mourned quietly, the way he had lived. There were no scandals in the papers, just stories of a man who represented dignity, strength, and grace. Gary Cooper's life was not loud. It was not filled with controversy or sensational headlines. It was filled with purpose, self-control, decency, and a deep understanding of what it meant to be a man. He wasn't the hero with a cape. He was the hero who stood his ground, even if he stood alone. His legacy lives in every actor who chooses subtlety over exaggeration, every viewer who is moved by a character's honesty, and every person who finds courage in silence. Gary Cooper wasn't just a star. He was a symbol. If Hollywood ever had a heartbeat, a center that quietly held its values together, it was Gary Cooper. He left behind not just films, but a lesson that greatness doesn't need to roar. Sometimes, it just needs to stand still and shine.